Good afternoon. My name's Kyle Bedalov. I coach at Waukesha North Marine for the girls and Waukesha North Marine Pewaukee for the boys. I'm also the WISCA president. This is my 9th year being the WISCA president. Today we're going to do a live webcast, but how this came about was back in summer of 2020. I've got two gentlemen I work with, Brian Temke and Phil McDade, and we do a lot of texting back and forth. Everybody's got their own little swim buddy chat group, so we're texting back and forth. And on my Twitter feed, Rowdy Gaines posted something that said, "I miss swimming." And so I texted the two of them and I said, "Should I just ask him if he wants to be on our webcast?" And the one guy said, "We don't have a webcast." I said, "We're going to have one now." So I sent him a text. I sent him a Twitter message because I'm a follower and said, "How would you like to be on a webcast?" And he said, "Sure. What time do you want to do it?" So we picked like 4 days later. And sure enough, Rowdy calls me from his cell phone. He's doing a Zoom from his cell phone, and we're chatting with him, and we're talking about all kinds of stuff. And that was really how it started. I then sent a message to Summer Sanders. We did a podcast with her. Unfortunately, it got lost on a device that I probably have thrown through the room a whole bunch of times. We got Garrett Webergale to do one with us after that. And then we just started doing coaches in our area. Then what happened after that was we didn't have a all-state banquet in Wisconsin. So the first year we did an all-state banquet, and we did it via Zoom. And the second year, we amped it up a little bit, and we told the winners ahead of time that they won. And as they won the award, and I announced it doing the Zoom, we clicked them into the room, and then we interviewed them live as they won their award. So they knew that they won, but it really wasn't a complete surprise, but they were excited to be on. And so we've done coaches, we've done athletes, we do state previews, state reviews, all kinds of stuff. Then last year at this convention, which was also virtual, I get a text message from one of you, probably Eve, and said, "Hey, you've been selected to start this webcast with these other two guys." And I'm like, okay. So it was Jason and Kevin. So we kicked it around a whole bunch, and I said we should not publish the first one until we have a second one done. And so then I recorded the first one. I interviewed Ron Blanc from California. Someone sent me his information, and he said he just spoke at ASCA about some stuff. So we covered all of his mental training things and his aspects. And from there, we've done a whole bunch of these. And it's actually, for me, it's fun because mine is I'm just talking to somebody, and we're talking about swimming. And I love swimming, and I'm excited and passionate about swimming. So we just start talking about swimming, and most of the guests have a pretty good time. And they'll come on about 15 minutes early and then stay about a half hour after it ends, and we just talk more swimming that's not recorded so they can get all their cuss words out, right?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm ready.
You ready?
For cuss words, yeah.
This will be the first time I've really done it live, and when I publish these, Jason scrubs his and cleans his because he does workout of the day or workout of the week, and he scrubs them clean and makes them all professional, whereas I just, whatever you say is getting recorded here.
Could we get Jason to do this?
So, are you ready?
As ready as I'm going to be.
Okay, so I'm going to record on this computer.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another episode of Between the Lane Lines. This is a first time ever. This is being filmed and recorded in front of a live studio audience. Today with me, I have NISCA Hall of Fame member from 10 years ago. I looked it up, Mr. Mark Onstott.
I'm just pleased as punch to be here.
So the first thing I always start with all my guests is, how did you get involved in swimming? When you were a young lad a whole bunch of years ago, how did you get started in swimming?
Well, I was really fortunate. I grew up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I'm a boomer. So Cedar Rapids was growing, and Cedar Rapids in the 50s, late 50s, built 3 new public pools. We already had one. And at that time also, they built 2 new high schools that had pools. So Cedar Rapids had a lot of water and things were growing. At that time, we lived about 2 blocks from a pool. The lady who lived across the street, she was the head of the Red Cross program at that pool. And my mom, they were friends, so she taught lessons. My mom did not know how to swim, which was a little bit of a hindrance, but she taught Station 2, floating. And from the day I got to that pool, I helped her in Station 2. And you got tickets to get in the pool if you taught lessons. So my mom got tickets, and all the kids in our neighborhood, my sister, my brother, and I, we all got tickets because we all helped teach lessons. And basically, from 8 in the morning, which was the first swim team practice, and then 9 o'clock, and then lessons started 10 and 11, and then at 12 the pool opened, and then the pool closed at 9:30 because it didn't get dark till around 9 o'clock. I was literally at that pool from 8 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, pretty much every day. And when I rode my bike home, I had to get off it and walk it down the street because my dad would get upset if I had the light on, or I didn't have a light if I rode my bike at night. So I didn't, at least close to the house. And the kid across the street who his mom ran the Red Cross, he got involved in competitive swimming, and basically I just followed along and swam in the recreation program, swam in the Y. There was no year-round club, so in the winter it was the Y program, and it just went from there.
So then you swim the club, and then you go into high school. And how was your high school experience?
By the time I got to high school, they had just opened a new high school, and I knew all along I was going to try to swim. And so I swam there, and it was the new high school in Cedar Rapids, Washington was the Power. Those of you who know, back in the day, Jim Voss was very involved here in Niska, and before him was a guy named Hal Krazan, and they won state championships all the time. And so when I started, we were kind of the poor sister. We were just struggling to get going. But we had a really good coach. Our coach was actually a diver from Iowa, but he was there when Doc Councilman was there. And so he did pick up some things from him. He was an outstanding coach. Doc Councilman actually, I just found this out a little while ago. Doc Councilman actually was the swim coach at the Cedar Rapids Swim Club, not swim club, country club, when he was at Iowa.
Sure.
And came within a hair of being the University of Iowa coach. But they hired somebody else, and he went to Indiana, and the rest is history. Indiana still has a program, and Iowa doesn't. But
Funny how that works.
yes. So anyway, I swam in high school. I loved it. And
So when you were a senior then, were you heavily recruited to go swim? Because you did swim at Northern Iowa. And
I was heavily recruited. Buena Vista, Loras, all of the Northwest, Southwest, Northeast, Missouri, all those, McAllister up in,
Minnesota.
yeah, all those places nobody's ever heard of, but also Mankato, at the time Mankato State College. Currently, I believe it's Minnesota State University. And I was also recruited by Northern Iowa. I chose to go to Mankato, and I spent a year there, and at that point I decided to retire, moved, and I went to Northern Iowa. I was at Northern Iowa, and I was done, and the guys on the team there kind of started talking to me about swimming, and I really didn't want to, I just thought I'm done, and I really didn't have a good experience in Mankato, and it was just like, that's all. But then I decided, well, I should, why not? And I went in and talked to the coach, Coach Glenn Henry, nicknamed Bullet for a reason. And I went in and talked to him about getting on the team the next year. And I thought he'd be thrilled that I was coming back. He wanted me a year ago. He's certainly going to love that I want to come out. And I think his words to me were something like, you know what? I like the guys we have on the team now. I mean, you could come out, you can try, but I really like these guys, and I don't have room for anybody else. So, well, okay, buddy, we'll find out if you got room for me or not. So I started running, I started swimming, I started getting back in shape, and ended up, being on the team and swimming 3 years. I had already sat out a year. I stayed an extra year to continue swimming, and we went to NCAA's Division II a couple times, and my senior year we had a relay that was All American. Mostly because we had one guy who was really, really good, and then there were three of us who kind of held on for dear life. But it was great, and I knew between my high school coach and my college coach, I knew I wanted to coach.
So you graduate from college. When did you figure out that coaching? You just said maybe it was from high school and college, but what led you or what opportunity did you get to actually start coaching? Because everyone has a unique story about how they got into coaching or what events happened to lead you to start coaching.
Well, I really idolized my high school coach. So I mean, I wanted to be like him. I wanted to teach school. I wanted to get married to somebody who taught school because his wife taught school. I wanted to teach high school. My ultimate job would have been teaching at Kennedy High School where I went to school. Um, and so I was really, and then when I got in college, I had another, after Mankato, I had another um, great coach who had a lot of influence on me. And so that I had a little bit of opportunity um, in college to do. I did some coaching for the Waterloo Y on a volunteer basis, so I did that a little. But most of my, really, I went from that to getting a job and coaching. Getting a high school job and coaching. I didn't have a lot of other um, coaching experiences except for Little League. I coached a Little League team one summer.
How'd that go?
Well, well enough that I don't remember it being a disaster. So it was, no, it was fine. I mean, I played Little League. Everybody played baseball. So um,
So first coaching job was where?
professionally,
Yes.
it was at Kennedy. I actually got a job at the high school that I graduated from, which was my goal.
Sure.
I was an assistant coach. I actually turned down a full-time job in Boone, Iowa, which is over by Ames, and to take an assistant's job. And I also took that job coaching special ed, which I had no education and or experience in. So that was interesting. I took a full summer of courses before I started. I, and nobody knew anything, so that helped. I mean, special ed was really, I mean, it was the wild, wild west. I mean, it was, we were just kind of by the seat of our pants figuring that out as we went. That was not, that was not my, my goal. That was not my passion, teaching special ed. I did enjoy it. I did have some fun. My first state championship team was our special ed basketball team. We won a couple state titles, actually. They don't give a trophy for that, but I counted it as my first state championship. Anyway, and so then I really wanted to focus on coaching, and you know, wangled around and finally got a job in Texas
Right.
at Cy-Fair High School just outside Houston. Um, Spent 12 years there and really loved Texas, loved Houston. Um, Cy-Fair High School, when I got there, we're really known for two things. One was football, not unusual, and the other was rodeo. They had a rodeo every Saturday night during the summer, and swimming was really not high up on the list. Um, I taught at the junior high, and I could tell the shifting winds of cowboy fashion based on what the junior high kids were wearing to school, what the boots looked like, one year it was dusters. Everybody had a duster, like the Cowboys, and so it was a um, tough place to grow a program, and it was a growing place. So every time that school district opened a new high school, they took they took a chunk out of my attendance zone, and that went on. There were 3 high schools when I got there, and I think right now there's maybe 17 or 18. There were probably 5 or 6 when I left, and again, I didn't want to leave Houston. Um, I loved Houston, and I sure as heck did not want to go where it snowed and was cold.
Well, that's a good segue.
So, so I came to Niska one year. I was pretty miserable because they were taking my kids again, and so Niska NCAA's were in Minneapolis, and the flight was $800. And I'd been going to Indianapolis and Austin, and could get there pretty cheap. And I told my wife, I we can't afford to pay $800 to go to Minneapolis and look for a job there. And if I find a job there, it's not going to be here in Houston. It's not going to be even in Texas. It's going to be somewhere up there. And I think she kind of grabbed me by the shoulders because I was so miserable. And she said, buy the ticket, get on the plane, go. And I said, okay, I'll make you happy. So I went, and the first guy I ran into was Bill Wolf. And the buddy I went up with knew what was going on. And so he asked Bill Wolf if he knew of any jobs. Bill Wolf said, well, yeah, New Trier. There's a big retirement thing in Illinois. They're paying teachers a lot of money to retire. And, I'm retiring. There's openings at New Trier. We're looking for a swim coach. I said, okay, cool. And that's north of Chicago, right? And, so I didn't do anything. And Bill saw me the next day and said, did you call? Did you? No, I didn't do anything. Go back to the room. My buddy says, will you please just call? So I called, talked to the AD. Turns out the AD is from Cedar Rapids. I thought this could work out. And anyway, bottom line is I had a good conversation. I filled out an application when I got home. Of course, at that time, it was all by fax and everything. And I had resumes there, and I faxed him some stuff, and went home, sat around, waited. Again, my wife, my lovely wife, right over there, she said, have you heard anything? No, I haven't heard anything. Well, are you going to call? Yeah, I might call. I'll see. So anyway, the bottom line is, she took me by the shoulders and said, call. And so I called, and they said, can you be here on Monday? This is like a Tuesday. And I said, sure. So I went up, we both flew up, flew into Midway, which we soon realized was on the wrong side of Chicago. But we got there, got up there, went through about 12 hours of interviews with pretty much everybody, the athletic director, and then the phys ed department, and then a group of parents and coaches. I was in the athletic director's office. A kid who I found out later was a swimmer walked in the office, and the kid said, "Yeah, I'd like to be in on the interview." And they took him down, and he sat down, and he swam for about 2 weeks and quit my first year. Anyway, it was an exhausting situation.
So what kind of program did New Trier have before you got there? Obviously, if you went through all those interviews, they must have had some kind of history of, and they had to
Well,
be looking for somebody specific to bring in for that
I
job.
found out later that I kind of was like a second round, and in the first round there were 300 applicants, and um, again, as I learned later, the phys ed department chair, and the phys ed department, obviously I was going to be in the phys ed department, and they were the main pusher on who's going to get this job. And the phys ed department chair was just, some outstanding coaches from Illinois applied, but they said the wrong thing in the interview, and they were out. And I was naive enough or whatever that I didn't say the wrong. I don't know. Anyway, the bottom line is, it was New Trier is an incredible high school, with academic achievement and everything that goes with it. And so it was that part of the piece, and then the swimming had been on a decline for a while, for probably 20, 25 years, and they were looking to improve that. So yeah, it was, but anybody who applies at New Trier, basically they put you through a ringer, and so New Trier, of course, had an incredible reputation. The 1960 or 61 team was named by Life magazine as the team of the century. It had two Olympians on it, I think, at least one. A couple of Adolf Kiefer's sons were on that team. So it was an incredible program, but by the time I got there in 1994, they really hadn't placed very highly at state for probably 20 years. The year before I got there, they didn't score a point at the state meet, and they hadn't won a state championship since 1966, I think.
So you get there in '94, and during that time, you were boys national champs in 2007, mythical team champion in 2012. I heard you guys were talking about it earlier today.
Public school.
Public school,
Yeah.
yes. So what pieces, or how did you take a program that had been down for so long, but had a history of great success, get there in '94? What kind of building blocks, or how did you structure it so that you could get all the boys and girls to rise to the level of what you were expecting to, and then maintain it? Because there's a lot of coaches here who we can get to a peak, and then it's hard to hold that level and keep going.
So I came in, I was an assistant girls coach, and I was the head boys coach. And the girls coach at that time shunned any attachment to the traditions and the success of New Trier. And the girls were state champions for like 7 years in a row, 80 to 80, 81 to 87, I think. And then this guy, that's not a nice way to put it, but the coach who was there when I got there, he took over And they had some success. They just never kind of got over the hump, I guess. But what I did, one of the things I did was I fully embraced New Trier, fully embraced the successes in the past, no matter how long ago they were, fully embraced the tradition. Um, so I felt like where maybe our performance was at this level, those things moved us up to this level. I fully embraced that everybody hated us, and they did. And there was reason. I mean, there was reason, personality things, and
Wait, come on.
not with me.
Oh, okay.
Not with me. I'm a peach. But with coaches before, and of course with Evanston, arch rival, in all sports, but definitely in swimming, and Dave Robertson, who a lot of you, of course, know. Dave and the coach at Evanston, Dobby Burton. I mean, their stories, and they were nose to nose all the time. After they retired, they would every once in a while go out and have lunch, which I wish I could have been there, because I don't think it was friendly as it's made to sound. But they just did all kinds of crazy things. New Trier showed up once at the Evanston Y to swim Evanston, and all the Evanston guys had on fins. They had on flippers. And Dave, this is the story I was told. I was not there. And Dave is talking to the official saying, "This isn't right. What are you going to do about it?" Well, the official goes, "I can't find anything against it." So Dave Robertson, and those of you who know Dave, he could do this. Dave Robertson filibustered for probably an hour. And of course, the Evanston Y was not that far from New Trier. And the assistant coach went back, got fins, came back, and so it was a fair fight. Anyway, another time the Evanston kids were on relays, were running starts on relays. So they would run and they would come out of a locker room door and run. And so Dave figures out what's going on, and he puts one of his assistants right there to hold the door. And Dave said, "There's nothing that sounds better than an Evanston swimmer hitting a door, trying to get out and run to cheat on a relay." Anyway, there's so many of those stories. Dave tells them better. Dave told them better.
Let's bring it back to what kind of things are you incorporating on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, besides embracing the team and embracing the culture and bringing the past forward?
I think the main thing, my philosophy is pretty simple, and it goes back to when I was a swimmer, where I was not the most talented guy. Obviously, I wasn't the biggest guy. Any success I had came from hard work, and that was my coaching philosophy. So the first thing we did, and I didn't realize this until I did it, that they had not been doing morning workouts the year before. No morning workouts. And so we did morning workouts, and we did we worked out every morning, we worked out every night, we worked out on Saturdays. We did all those things that they really had not been doing in the immediate past. So hard work is the main thing.
And during that time, how big were the teams? I mean, because you went from, I'm assuming, 5 or 6 practices a week to 11, were you able to? There's going to be some kids who that's not for them, and they're gonna quit. So were you able to withstand the change attrition to move the program forward?
I think we probably had started out with maybe between 45 and 50 kids my first year, and like I told you, the one kid that actually was in on the interview with me, he quit in the first 2 or 3 weeks. But we really held on to a lot of kids, and they really adjusted really well. In all the places I was, obviously we kind of did the same thing, and you have a lot of hard-working kids, but these kids they were up there with any group of guys I ever coached. They really embraced it, and they worked hard. And our first meet was against Rockford Guilford. So Guilford High School out of Rockford, Illinois. Traditional first meet for New Trier. And again, I didn't know this until afterwards, but we had not beat them in 7 years, I think. And they were not a swim power. They were at one time really good competition, but they were not a swim power. So, and the swim meet came down to the last relay. And we were lucky. We had a freshman kid who swam at Lake Forest Swim Club, and he was good. And he was on the anchor of the 400 relay to win the meet, and he dove in the water 20 yards behind. And he was not only just a good swimmer, he was a racer. He was a competitor. We literally just touched him out. And that meet was 2 weeks into the season. So the end of the second week on that Saturday, we swam them. And I have said, for the last 30 years, that if Justin and Wida had got touched out, there's a chance I would have been run out of town on a rail at that point, because that was kind of a test for working hard and putting in the time. And the kid did the same thing against Evanston right after Christmas, I find out we hadn't beat them in 8 years, and which is heresy that we hadn't beat Evanston in 8 years. And it came down to the last relay, and the kid did the same thing. So
now you've retired from swimming for coaching for about 8 years, right?
Full-time high school and teaching.
And you were, like I said earlier, you were inducted to the Hall of Fame about 10 years ago.
The NISCA, yes.
NISCA Hall of Fame, not to mention all the other Hall of Fames that you're in, right? Right?
Yeah.
And you just had a birthday yesterday.
Biggest accomplishment so far.
So how long are you going to hang out with us? I mean, at some point everyone has to step away completely. I mean, you don't have to. We don't want you to, obviously, but
it sounds like you do, just a little bit.
I mean, you're still on the All-American chair, so how long are you going to keep doing this? I mean, we're going to keep having you. Tim already said you've got a lifetime contract, so.
The last 2 years really have been kind of hard, because I really enjoy coming here. I enjoy seeing people. I enjoy talking to people. I have enjoyed people talking to me, and just, just all the things. I enjoyed last night out there, talking with a group and just all those things, and all the people I don't see. Starrett, I never see Starrett, but here he is. Marnie, all the people. It's great. I was just back there waiting for you to get ready here and talking to Dave Barney, and that's exciting to me, and it's my vacation. And when I was coaching in New Trier, I literally had no vacation. If NISCA fell on our spring break, which it did most of the time, I had no break, no time off, but I loved coming here. And as we're all aware now, my birthday almost every year fell during the NISCA convention. But other than it being brought up, I just love being here, and I love what little I can do. I love hearing stories. I love talking to people, like I said, and I have a job as the All-American coordinator, that I'd like to convince you is really, really hard. But with the All-American chairs we have, it's just great working with them. And Marnie Shirley has been academic for a long time and does a great job. And Tim and I don't want to forget anybody. Where's Mark? And Mark and Don, Dandy Don. And did I forget anybody?
No.
Oh, yeah, Sean's not here. And I'll leave it at that. So it's kind of a hectic job for me, a little bit now because there's a lot of questions. Mostly after I get all the files and I'm dealing with them and getting them published and getting certificates out for kids. But like I said, it's not that hard, not near as hard as the All-American chairs work.
Or the
It's-
archives and records guy.
I'm not sure how hard that is, but I'm sure you're going to do a good job. And it's just I enjoy it. And then to be able to come places and meet with people, and I give Eve trouble, and that's kind of fun, and.
So we end all these with some rapid fire questions. And so it's supposed to be the first thing that comes to your mind, okay?
You did not mention that before.
Well, I know, because well, if you be a regular listener, you would know these.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I usually got about halfway through one.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
And then whoever you were talking to was just rambling on. And
so the first one is, what is your favorite pool?
UT. That's Texas, not Tennessee.
Okay. Your favorite high school event?
I guess hunter fly.
Favorite race that you've ever watched in person?
Dressel, 17.
Was that
53.
2 years ago, 3 years ago here?
Probably 3.
3
It
years
wasn't
ago?
here, yeah.
Not like
It wasn't 5 years ago. Was it 17? 2017? Wow. Time flies almost as fast as Dressel swims.
Yes.
No, but that whole meet, he went like 129 in the 200. And
Yeah.
It was just like crazy.
The toughest high school event?
It's probably the IM.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Your coaching mentor, your coaching mentor.
Well, like I said, my two coaches are the two men I consider my coaches, not the guy from Mankato. Obviously them, but I also coached with a guy named Bruce Woodbury at New Trier. I just happened to get off the phone with him, and he is the funniest little guy you ever want to meet. You know that, Eve. And I enjoyed working with him. He is probably the place we agree and we work together well is the hard work piece. I coached the morning because he had he had his son. He couldn't come to morning practices.
Sure.
So I would do all the mornings my first 2 or 3 years. And, I'd say, okay, this week, what are we going to do? And every time it was just no mercy, no mercy. I do that. I do no mercy well. But I just loved working with him. And he was a guy who would poke. He would poke the girls, not literally, but he would just make them mad.
Yeah.
And I spent my whole career coaching girls trying to not make them mad, trying to not make them angry with me. And he would just say things to make them mad. And he'd have one practice every year where he would get so upset and he'd just kick everybody out. I never did that because I wanted them working. So Bruce Woodbury would be it.
One thing that you would change about high school swimming, and if you say have a diving relay, we're going to have to step outside. No offense.
First off, I like diving.
That's fine. I like diving too.
I like it a lot better when I have good divers.
Amen.
Uh, and I will not comment on a diving relay any more than I would comment on swimmers diving.
Yes.
What would I change?
Do you want some answers that other guests have gave?
Sure.
Uh, Ron said he wished that all the seasons would all line up and all be the same, and preferably be in the spring. And then I had to tell him that I'm from Wisconsin and we can't really have spring swimming, so he wanted all of them. Some people have said maybe add the 100 IM would be a good addition. Um, some of them said mix up the order like they do in wrestling, where now in wrestling you can start at any weight class and then run through.
And just pull them out.
Just pull them out, yeah.
I think that it makes more sense for wrestling because you don't have a guy doing two
Yeah.
weight classes. But in the time I've coached, the events have changed. Like at one time, the 50 came before the IM, way back, probably when I was in high school. The 200, there was a 200 free relay, but it was at the end. There was no 400 free relay. The 200 free relay came in, and then it seems like they moved it around a little. I think they wobbled it in there. I really can't say anything. I'm not big on change. So, a change happens, you adjust. Oh, I know what I would like. I hope Sandy's paying attention. I would like for the swimming world, including high school, to recognize the fact that when you're swimming backstroke in the IM, you are executing a turn when you go to the breaststroke. You're not executing a finish. It's a simple thing. Now, the other thing might be that backstroke, I'm not sure of the current rules because I've been out of it for a while, and especially with the different governing bodies. But backstroke is a stroke where, first off, you start in the water. And for a time there, a lot of people were literally starting underwater because they were holding onto the gutter because they were slipping. Couldn't curl their toes. Backstroke, at least on some levels, again, I can't remember in high school right now, but on some levels, is the only stroke where you can't see the wall, but you can't glide. So you can't glide into a turn, but butterfly, freestyle, you can glide. So we got backstrokers who can't see the wall, they can't glide, they're starting underwater. That just doesn't seem fair. So I'd like to change that on all levels, but nobody's asked
So
except
you're
you.
saying get rid of backstroke?
No. I'm a fan of backstroke.
When you were coaching, what was your one go-to catchphrase on deck? Like, so if I called some of your former swimmers, what would they say that you say a lot of the times on deck?
I'm not sure there was one.
Everybody's got one.
I'm sure there was, but probably when we got to taper, is rest as a weapon, which was, I just write that on the board at the beginning of taper. But and you really, I'm sure my swimmers would say you say this all the time, but I don't know.
And then finally, one swimming person, living or dead, that you would want to meet, that you have never met before.
Well, I met Dave Robertson. So let's see, one person swimming. I really don't know.
Could be a coach, could be an ass swimmer.
Well, I mean, Eddie Reese, but I've met Eddie Reese. You're killing me. Doc Councilman. I never met Doc.
That's a good answer. That's pretty much the end of the show.
Hallelujah.
You were fantastic.
Yeah.
You should do this at least once a year.
So I'm good for,
Another 12 months.
yeah, we could.
Maybe when you turn 75, we'll do another one.
There you go.
Is that fair?
I'm up for that, yeah.
Thanks a lot. Really
Oh.
appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. I like your microphone.
Recording stopped.
Oops. I shouldn't have said that.
That's okay. It'll all come out. I'll scrub that part out.
Okay, a little scrubby.
He says that. He doesn't mean it.
So that's basically how the whole thing works. So when the rules committee from NHFS comes on, that's what you're going to get. Okay, fair enough.
When's that being done?
A couple weeks. I'll send her an email after the rules come out, right?
So she won't have to sit in front.
No, she will
She
do it.
won't have an
No,
audience?
she won't have an audience. You're a good sport. That was.
It's funny because that's how it looked on the computer screen. It was all fun.
Oh yeah, my camera kept zooming in and out, so it's only audio. I don't publish the video.
Thank
You guys are
goodness
great on
again.
YouTube.
Oh, so now there's video.
But she's putting it on YouTube. Like the webcast doesn't do a video webcast.
Okay, but it's still on YouTube. And I've heard that crap last forever.